Thank you so much, Mindy, and to the entire committee and my fellow honorees. I'll be honest, when I found out I was getting this award, my first thought was, am I a good enough mom? I think we all wonder that sometimes. From the outside, I know what my life looks like: senior executive at a large technology company, loving husband, 3 beautiful children, and a golden retriever who thinks that she's one of them. But 3 years ago, my husband and I were completely engulfed by a crisis, and we didn't have a single answer. At the time, our oldest daughter, Ava, was in kindergarten. She was bright, curious, and creative. But the whole language thing just wasn't sticking. And as someone who communicates for a living, that was pretty jarring. We eventually learned that Ava has a speech and language disorder and something called double deficit dyslexia, which is really just a fancy way of saying that she was going to have a very hard time learning how to read. We also learned that almost every school that was best equipped to help her was based on the East Coast, which was a problem because at the time we were living in San Francisco. When I think back to that period, there's a moment that I keep coming back to. Ava was smart enough to know that she was different and aware enough to try to hide it. Instead of saying, I'm going to see my speech therapist, she would say, I have a meeting, probably because she had heard me say it so frequently. But she couldn't hide everything. One day I was sitting in my office at Uber when I received a video of Ava's classroom. All of the children were sitting in a half circle on the rug, reading their little books. And Ava was the only child with a partner. I could see her mouthing the words, and I knew that she was faking it, trying to participate. I went home that evening and I said to my husband, I know that we just moved into this house, but we're leaving. Then I sat down with Dara, my boss, and Uber's chief executive. I said to him that I didn't expect him to reorient my job around my life, that I was grateful for everything, but that I needed to do what was best for my family. He was extraordinary about it. And in that moment, he said exactly what I needed to hear. He said, you're a great executive, you're a great mother, and I think we can work it out so that you can be both. But even if he hadn't been so extraordinary, I would have put my kids first 1,000,000 times over, because that's what motherhood means to me. And I know exactly where I learned it. 22 years ago, I arrived in New York City with my mother, who is here with me today. I had just landed my first real job, and we spent days searching for an apartment, which, as you all know, in New York City is an absolute nightmare. When we finally found one, I somehow convinced my mother to take a bus with me to the IKEA in Newark, and we spent the weekend furnishing all 370 square feet of it. I stored my sweaters in the oven because in those days I had no other use for it. And then on Monday morning, I walked out the door thinking that I was starting a new job when I was actually starting a new life. One that has led me here to rooms of hundreds of incredible women supporting such an incredible cause. My mom always did whatever it took. She was totally committed to me and my brother Ryan. And that example of complete commitment is one that I try to carry forward in my own family. Eventually, we got Ava into a school in Washington, D.C., one of the best schools in the country for kids who have complicated profiles like hers. But the doubts were still there. Ava didn't really understand why we had to move, and her siblings weren't thrilled about it either. We all missed our friends and our life in the Bay Area. For a while, I couldn't even look at the screensaver images of San Francisco on my Apple TV without tearing up. But then slowly, it got better. The school is amazing, and all of the parents there are in the same boat. And eventually, my Ava learned to read. One morning, I was driving her to school, and she said to me, Mom, I've been climbing the reading mountain, and that reading mountain, it's Mount Everest. Am I gonna have to climb a math mountain next? We all have this picture in our head of what motherhood is going to be like. We try to make everything line up with that vision. And sometimes we even succeed, at least for a little while. But every mom in this room is climbing a mountain for her child, even if it's invisible. What gets us through and what unites us is the fact that we will do whatever it takes for our kids, no matter our circumstances, no matter how big or small, every single day. That instinct, I think, is what sets moms apart. And to me, that whatever it takes mindset is really what we're celebrating here today. So cheers to all of my fellow honorees, to all of you, to my mother. And thank you so much for this incredible honor.